Hey kids. I was recently challenged to make Gato Bolt playable adjacent by one Daniel A. Drive, and that's what this video was going to be, but after making the list and running test games, it was clear that the only role Gato Bolt could possibly fulfill is being like a worse eye woolly. And not only is that impossibly boring, it's also probably the saddest thing you could say about a card, so here's a good deck instead. Sorry for letting you down, Mr. Drive. Earth Beatdown is definitely the most solved of any Celestial deck. Not that that means much, given the card pool looks like a dying mall right now. But that doesn't mean we still can't find ways to spice up our relationships with Demeter. Scavagem is a card that saw the recent list and headed straight to your DMs to let you know that he does in fact search Earthquake, and then asked if you had plans for those 2 spare slots in your main deck. Honestly, he's a pretty alluring prospect, too. His cousin Scavacol recently got a pretty lucrative gig searching Lavalith in Fire Nexus, and it's not hard to see the vision of using Gem to grab EQ and Fulloy for a 6/8 stick, and the best kill spell locked and loaded for whatever beats a huge dude. But in practice, Scavagem has a lot of issues, mostly with the wretched Weasel. Let's say you stick a gem and get aggressive. After all, what's the point of a 2-drop that doesn't attack? You need Fully Forest to do anything with the body since it has a really bad offensive profile. Your opponent playing Thunder then starts their turn by casting Jolton, adding Mount Olympus, activates it, and attacks their 5-attack Jolton over your now 4-attack Scavagem. You have now invested 4 spirits, 2 turns worth of normal casts, and 3 cards into forcing your opponent to play cards they were going to anyway. But hey, you searched Earthquake, so it's okay, guys. Now you can make sure that Jolton doesn't stick. Surely this will win the Thunder matchup. Another way to add a little flavor to your Earth list is to play Argo. This is definitely the tech that's most likely to, win games. Basically, Earth has access to the best artifact in the game through Scythe of Demeter, one of the only artifacts that buffs both attack and defense at the same time, and does it by a reasonable amount. I'm sorry, Scepter of Kion. You're just not good enough. This can allow you to win combat even if your beater gets rotated. Just the stat boost makes it worth running, but Scythe also has an effect to heal an Earth Spirit or 2 when you beat something in battle, so it makes the upfront cost of Argo a lot more manageable. If Scythe isn't enough juice to win in battle, you could also just totally play a Necklace of Harmonia too. Yeah, crashing with Cryoburn is good, but you know what's better? Winning.
Call an ambulance! Call an ambulance! But not for me!
If you're a truly artifact-pilled Argo cell, you can take it even further beyond and play Timber, a card most notable for having a stellar ripped straight out of that one fuck-ass Pinocchio movie. The idea is that with removal limited, Timber demands far more respect than it ever did when you could just Earthquake it. You can kinda just sit on Timber with a few sets, and your opponent is completely locked out of attacking in case you have Argo back there. Behold, a Pheromel. I know Wish.com Pheromel doesn't sound very exciting, but genuinely, how do you deal with a Timber while Argo is set? You're playing against Earth, so Equilinx can munch shields, and Timber has such high stats that you're not going to be able to hit over it without a 3 cost. You can't even try to attack around the Satyr, because if you walk into Argo on Vis or Lynx, you probably still lose because of the tempo swing. But now the Timber can stop pretending it has things to live for. If the Timber triggers, you get to stare down the biggest Centaur you'll probably ever see. Speaking of, you could also just cut the middleman and play just Centaur. It takes a bit more investment, but being able to Argo to the poles to win combat and put spirits on board means Equilinx survives way more turns than it normally does, and makes setting up a Centaur with a pop to spare comically easy, compared to halting the aggro to throw down a random 2-drop that needs further setup. Whether or not that's worth it is debatable, but hey, live your truth. Play the big dumb 3-drop. Have some fun once in a while. God knows you need it if you're playing Earth. Alternatively, you could drop Argo and play another extremely expensive niche rune in Rise from the Ashes. Rise from Earth honestly isn't too bad because it means you get to make use of a criminally underexplored search tool in Paleoth. Paleoth often takes a backseat to Rummagem because it has to be destroyed to search, but being able to grab Ascensions and mill big payoffs when it's destroyed in battle or card effect means your opponent is going to be walking on eggshells to avoid proccing it if they aren't ready for the consequences. The obvious way to use Paleoth's mill is to send Neander Sloth for a Rise from. Neander Sloth being a card that can take 2 cards out of your opponent's hand every time it kills something in battle. It also has some flavor text that mentions Titanostalk, I guess. Neander Sloth is really cool, and resolving the effect can give maximum serotonin, but getting that off is like next to impossible against a thinking opponent just because of how much back row players get to run. There are more reasons Neander Sloth connecting is like finding and then riding a unicorn, but I still have to iron out my thoughts on that. The general gist is that 6 is too low of a number for a beater, even for an effect as strong as a double discard to justify. Another angle with Paleoth Mill is to go back to Scent Harbor. You don't actually need 2 copies of the search target to resolve Paleoth, as you can find a copy of an Alestral and fail to find the other, milling the first target and moving on with the turn so you don't have to brick on Scent Harbor. Or you can just play a second anyway and be fine even if you draw the first. It all really depends on how much you fear God. Scent Harbor isn't as flashy as Neander Sloth, but it hits a lot harder, can pop to clear its own path, and most importantly, doesn't fall anemic at the first sight of anything sharp. It's a much greater investment because you need the 3 spirits for Rise, 3 for Scent Harbor, and another to re-enchant if you want the pop as well. Like, you get a big swing, but at what cost? You could also mill Scavagem, adding a second to hand to ascend to later, and then rising back the first to search for power plays, but oh wait, no you can't do that actually. Scavagem only triggers when it ascends, because God forbid you rise from Scavagem and search for fucking Clovey! Sometimes I feel like I'm too harsh on Scavagem, but at the same time, he lets me down every time he comes down, so I don't actually feel bad at all. Kreisbohr is another option that can fill the void left by Earthquake's Limit, but to be honest, I just don't want to play with Kreisbohr because it just has no sauce. It is the most bone-dry Alestral of all time. Or you could do something truly based and play Barabog or Hibufin as win conditions, but Barabog is awful because it's literally a vanilla against the most playable quarter of the card pool, and Hibufin is just better served by a wind shell than anything Earth has to offer. It is very funny though. Honestly, no matter what you do to butcher Earth Nexus, you still have a perfectly capable deck. Like, yeah, you are actively throwing by playing nonsense like Neander Sloth, but you're also still playing Earth. If you really want to lock in and win, you can just pretend that the big idiot you drew doesn't exist and play vanilla Earth beatdown with a few dead draws, and that's probably enough to win a local. The neat but also extremely unfortunate thing about Earth is that the pool of unplayable Earth guys is like maybe 4 cards deep. Everything can serve a legitimate enough function, so you're basically left with all the little rejects that got outclassed by the Scrimblows that are already in the deck, and a list that's exactly the same as normal Earth, but like 10% less efficient. Anyway, I'm gonna go do a line and cook up some Warfrost combos that'll have me seeing sounds and smelling colors. Fuck y'all know about Cryovern fail to find.